Okay, welcome to topic 3, classroom management practices and procedures. This topic 3, it's somewhat unique in that its elements, techniques, practices and so on are generally subjective, they're personal rather than prescribed. What do I mean by this? What I mean by this is that a lot of what you're going to do in this section or this area, it's personal preference, what works for you and your teaching style. So you may not know what your teaching style is as yet. You may not know what your preferences are. But as you go forward, you will develop your own personal classroom practices and procedures as you become more comfortable in your role as a teacher and as you gain more experience. Therefore, this slideshow is more of a framework and somewhat of a guide that points out the areas that you would need to be aware of and focus on as you develop practices and procedures within your classroom space. So, why do we need practices and procedures in our classrooms? As you'll hear from me all the time, these are part of what creates safety for our kids, and that's really essential if you want your kids to be comfortable and engaged within your classroom. When you have established clear roles and routines and practices, your students know what is expected from them day to day and for every eventuality. So in an emergency, they know what you expect them to do. If their pencil breaks, they know what you want them to do. So it saves a lot of time for them as they don't constantly have to ask you questions, Miss or Sir, what do I do now? How do I do this? It saves them time because they know I've already been taught on how to do this and what I need to do, and you obviously remind them as time goes on. Also, it saves you time because you don't have to answer 15 questions from 15 different kids all day long. So you reduce kids getting distracted or disruptive because, as we know, the routines and procedures are already in place. It allows you to focus on building and maintaining relationships, and it also allows everyone to engage in meaningful learning opportunities, which is a big reason of why the kids are at school. We want them to be learning and focusing. So essentially, if we know what we do, which is the routines, if we know what we do and we know how to do it, and the how to do it is a procedure part, there will be little room for any difficulties, doubt, confusion, and just general distractions. Children need structure and routine and not chaos. Remember, everything that we do in our class should have a why. Why do we do this? What is the purpose of this? We need to ensure that children have structure, they need boundaries, they need realistic, healthy rules and guidelines because this helps them make sense of their lives and helps them to develop internal structure. Now, what do I mean by this? When we have external structures, so we have rules, we have boundaries, when kids know what they need to do at every point, it helps them to develop their own way of structuring their lives, their own way of planning activities for themselves. I don't know if you've ever had this experience, and I'm sure you have. You'll feel very overwhelmed because you have so much to do. So, for example, you're studying, so you have your studies, you have assignments, you have work, you have your kids or your family at home, you have your friends, you have a lot to do. It's just so much, and you feel like, when am I going to do all of this? And because it's so overwhelming, you don't even start. Because where do I even start? It's just too much. But sometimes, if you put together a to do list, it gives you some structure of where to start. So you can actually start ticking off. And as you tick off, it just gives you more inspiration to do more and more and more. So I found that this works for me. I actually make a to do list and start ticking off and focusing on things on that list because it just gives me a sense of structure and a sense of where to start. So this is what I mean by how kids have used an external structure to create an internal structure, and therefore they eliminate the chaos in their lives. So you may ask, who creates the practices and procedures? And there are various views and opinions on this, but essentially it comes down to the type of classroom that you want, the kind of environment that you foster in your classroom. More learner type environments or learner focused environments, they'll co-create the rules and guidelines for the class with the students. Also further develop this into, then they will develop it into classroom routines and procedures from there. Some teachers actually encourage parents and families input as well and ask for suggestions or ideas. But if you don't do this, at least be careful to let parents know what the classroom rules and procedures are so that they can keep their kids accountable and also keep you accountable for the various rules and procedures to be respected and adhered to. On the other hand, some schools have policies which feed into your classroom routines and rules and procedures. So like the pass system for going to the bathroom. Sometimes kids have to actually get a pass to go to the bathroom. So some schools expect this, while other schools just leave it to the teacher to decide how they would like things to work in the classroom space. So the classroom practices and procedures are really defined by everyone involved, if that's what you like, or sometimes the teacher just decides on everything that needs to be on that page and then they take it from there. Because we want to foster more learner-centered environments and we want our kids to take responsibility and also buy in, it's a good idea really to have them join you in that process of creating the procedures and practices, because then they'll have some ownership and they'll feel like this is something that we decided together and therefore I need to respect it because I was part of deciding on this. So here's some suggestions and ideas on the rules and guidelines. Create them and implement them from day one, the start of your term. Try to have it already put together by your classroom and by yourself. Co-create them. Don't have too many rules because too many are just going to be restrictive and confusing. And make sure that they're all fair and reasonable and not something that's not too high expectations that are unreasonable. If rules are broken, talk to the students, but don't talk in front of the whole class and make it, embarrassing. Talk to the child one-on-one and you will take it from there. Put these rules and guidelines up in the classroom. So especially for kids like to see things. When they see things often, that it's easier for them to remember. Also, if they hear things often, even though you think they're not paying attention, they really are. Have these kinds of rules and guidelines shared with parents and also invite their input if you feel comfortable. And importantly, have fun, encourage humor and fun in your classroom because they are kids after all. So I put together this model. This model to follow when you're trying to introduce or implement a new classroom procedure. So essentially it's around the what, why and how. So if you have a new procedure, what you can do is introduce and explain the procedure. What is it? Why do we need to do it? Then you model it. So if you want to show them how to get a new pencil, if the pencil breaks, show them exactly what you want to do. Ask another learner to try it and show the class. That's when you practice the procedure. So you model it, have a student model it, and then you talk about what they see and how they see it happening. And then remind them and reinforce them because oftentimes kids don't remember or they confused or they just don't know how. So you have to know that you're going to have to practice and reinforce and re-explain a couple of times before the kids actually remember it and do it continuously. These are just some general reminders when creating and enforcing the rules and procedures in the classroom. You need to be consistent. You cannot skip a day because if you do, it doesn't allow kids to realize the importance of the rule or procedure. Have high expectations, so don't water things down for your kids. Building a relationship with him is key and modeling what you want to see because this also allows him to see that you also are accountable and also need to follow the rules. Highlight the positives as we spoke about earlier. Do not name and shame, so don't shout at them and don't make it known to everybody that they've made this huge mistake and make them feel put on the spot. And again, routines create safety in your classroom. These are just some ideas and procedures you could establish, or things around where do we sit, how do we come into the class, transitions. So some teachers like to play music in transitions. When they transition from the reading mat to the tables, play a little bit of music while they're working, play music. What is your procedure on that? Emergency procedures, how do we use the bathroom? Do we ask or do we just get a pass and go? How does that work? So those are kinds of things. No, they're not the only procedures to create, but there are some reminders on where you need to think about. Okay, so behavior challenges, these are just examples. Sometimes teachers don't know how to manage behavior and how to manage students. So these are two examples on a student that is attention seeking and one that is power seeking. Attention seeking is just wanting to get some attention, positive attention or negative attention. And power seeking is trying to get the teacher into a fight or into a struggle because sometimes the child feels powerless. And so they want to push you as a teacher so they feel some semblance of power, but it's also someone looking for attention as well and just looking to be seen. These are some ideas of how you can have your rules and procedures in your classroom. Have them looking fun and interesting. Put them up on the walls as a reminder to your kids and anyone who comes into your classroom as well understands what the expectations are within the classroom and they know that what is expected from them in different situations and in your classroom specifically. I have an example of a classroom arrival procedure. This is just what I think is not necessarily what you have to do. So in this classroom, the teacher will meet students at the door. Students they are able to come into the classroom before class, but as soon as the bell goes, or however your classroom or your class start, you stand at the door. You leave the classroom. You line up outside. The teacher stands at the door. Having the teacher at the door is a good way to really get your kids into the understanding. Right, class is going to start. So as a teacher, you stand there and you create the feeling and the expectation for the day. If you say, for example, I want everyone to be quiet and chill before you enter the classroom, it helps you to get that routine set before they even enter your room. Quietly stand in line. Is everyone ready? Is everyone ready to start the day? Is everyone feeling good? Already there you're setting the tone. Then we move down to this picture here. Try and greet every child. It takes a little bit of time, but at the beginning of the day, if you get the children for the first part of the day, you may be the first adult that's really paying attention to them and looking at them. You can maybe see, are they looking ill? How is the uniform looking? Are they feeling good? Are they looking their usual selves? And you also notice who's there and who's not there. Have your classroom prepared. If you have an activity for the day, for example, you're having a cutout activity, have the pages on the desk maybe already, or have the different stations set up, or so on. Some teachers like to have music, so in this classroom, music is encouraged, so you can have music when your children enter the classroom. That's really up to you. And then on your board, have the expectations for the day. So I'm going to show you in the next slide what it can look like. So this is a whiteboard. It's one that I've created here on the computer, and I want you to think about this as the whiteboard in your class. So you could have a section here that is never erased. What is the homework? And you can always put the homework in this section, so kids know if I look in this area on this area of the board, this is where homework will be. Here's things about what must I remember. For example, remember to bring your special colors tomorrow, or remember that you need to bring a different book tomorrow. Announcements, maybe announcements for the term. Look, this is just an idea. You can have them anyway and anyhow you like. This is just an idea. Yeah, you can always have the day of the week, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the day, the month, and the year. Get kids into the pattern or the routine of having this on their pages. Then you can have the topic of the day. What are the objectives for the lesson? Remember, if kids know what is expected, if your lesson plan is easily accessible and available, they know what they need to look forward to, unless you want to surprise them, which is a different thing. Then you have your PDN. What is your PDN? It's your please do now. When they enter the room, what do you want them to do? You want them to start cutting. You want them to take out their journal and start writing in their journal. You want them to take out their homework. Have a please do now. It can even be an activity as they enter the room. That's your PDN, your please do now. And then what are the activities for the day? Possibly with a time limit. So 10 minutes for this and 5 minutes for that. It's up to you. So have this on your board. You can have it every day. The structure can remain the same. And it just changes if there's something special happening. That's just an idea of what your board can look like. And that can be the routine for your board. Then collaborating with colleagues. Sometimes as a new teacher, you don't know what to do. You're unsure, you don't feel that you have enough experience because, let's face it, studying and being in the classroom are two very different things. They don't seem the same. They feel like it's completely different, and that's normal because we cannot really prescribe or give you a complete idea of what you will feel or expect day to day within your classroom. So collaborate with your colleagues that have been there for a while, people that you trust. Ask them for ideas or share your ideas with them. In that way, you develop your own classroom management style, and also you know what kind of procedures and rules and routines work with kids, because a lot of teachers have already worked it out. You don't have to recreate the wheel if you don't have to. If they have something that works, then borrow it from them. Tell them, I think this will work in my classroom. I'm going to try it. And then you give them feedback afterwards and thank them also if they're helping you to develop these. Just remember why you're doing what you're doing. And that's going to guide you and lead you on your way, because it's going to give you the confidence to know that I'm enforcing this procedure and rules because I want the best for you as a student. These are the references I've used. Please feel free to add your own references or to go through these books and these journals and find out any extra information you like. Thank you.